Thank you for joining me today, and congratulations on being chosen as one of the 25 of ISA screenwriters to watch. That's very impressive. And
Thank you so much, Christy.
yeah, and thank you for taking this time. I always appreciate a good conversation. And so we were having some fun conversation before this started, and
Mhm.
I'll maybe touch on some of those side notes later because I think there's some fun stuff there. But I would love to hear more about your background and how you kind of got started, if you don't mind taking us through your kind of writing
Yeah,
journey.
not at all. I appreciate your time too. I was born in Vietnam and then I was sponsored to the United States with my parents. We were refugees. And so English is actually my second language. I started nursery school here and then kept going. I started writing essays about animals like fish in elementary school. And then I was actually living near where you grew up. I lived in New York, and after 9/11, I thought I would just go to Los Angeles for a few months. That ended up being a couple of decades. And in between there, I worked various jobs. I did a lot of temping and I worked at nightclubs. And at a nightclub, I met some young folks who knew some folks who needed an assistant in this thing called Hollywood. So I was very green and I didn't know a lot of the terminology, like what a honey wagon is. Like I really was tossed in there. But I was super fortunate to have really awesome bosses and they took care of me. And I was just in an atmosphere where people could write 60 pages like that. So it just kind of sunk in. I had a little desk and I had final draft because I read a lot of screenplays for work. And so I started trying to write things and actually didn't have final draft at home. So I eked out my first screenplay on Microsoft Word. I was like, indent,
Right.
indent, indent.
I've
Uh,
done that. It's a nightmare.
I know. I'm so glad we have all kinds of software now to make our lives easier. So now I can write faster. So I just kept writing. I did pretty okay in the first contest I entered. So it's like, I don't know, what would they say, Russian roulette. That encouraged me enough to keep going. And once I got comfortable with like 80 plus pages, I just haven't ever stopped. So I prefer feature writing. It's actually easier for me than writing like an hour long 60 pager for some reason.
I can see that. And I was, looking at all your accomplishments in your bio, and I was telling you, I was like, wow, does she sleep? Like, is there ever an opportunity when she's not working? Because it's very, very impressive. It's very badass because it's also very kind of across the like all kinds of different things that you've had your hands in. It's not just like one distinct medium or genre or anything, and that's really exciting to see because I think that also just speaks to your natural talent as a writer and a creator and artist. Um,
You're too kind. Yeah, I feel like back in the day, people used to want you to stick to like either you're a comedy writer or you're a drama writer. So I'm glad that over the years, I just write what I like to watch. I watch super highbrow to super lowbrow or whatever you want to call it. And I appreciate everything, and
oh
I
yeah.
watch various things too. So I try to emulate things that I like and try to come up with new stuff in all those various areas. So thank you for
Yeah, I
saying that.
think it's important to I mean honestly, I think watching is one of your best ways of education too, and
Mhm.
especially if you don't I don't know, if you try to be as open as possible and watch as much as you can of a variety of different things, I think that's going to
Mhm.
teach you what to do, what not to do, and also what
Yeah,
you like. So
exactly. I like being a critic sometimes, but I don't really judge.
yeah,
Like everyone turns out stuff that represents them, and
right. Yeah. No, I am a critic, but I always try to be very respectful because I know how hard this is. As I'm also
yeah,
someone that's written some screenplays. I've not had anything made. I'm still in that fight. you
a high
know,
five
yeah.
with you.
But I recognize how difficult it is to make anything. So anybody that is able to do that is,
Mhm.
I'm already like super supportive of you and, cheerleader. And so you mentioned, writing, and you have a really interesting trajectory as far as your story. I mean, talk to so many people that mention, just like right place, right time, meeting someone, or it sometimes your contacts and your network is how you end up really getting set up. So it's always fun to hear individual stories. But did you always want to be a screenwriter, or because you also do other kind of writing, right?
Yes, and I had no idea what screenwriting really was until I lived around screenwriters, or I spent, 60 hours with screenwriters. I grew up reading a lot. So I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I wasn't sure exactly what kind. I did want to write for magazines because I was very fond of essay writing when I was younger and felt really comfortable with that format. And thanks to, people with good criticism of my work and some great editors in the magazine world too, I became more comfortable with like um, different word counts.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate to learn as I've gone along a lot of times as well, or been able to create a path because I can find certain niches or certain worlds I've been a part of that a lot of people may have not had access to. So I feel very lucky that I've knocked on doors and tapped on shoulders and said pretty please. And people have given me some chances. So that's why I encourage people, if someone like me can do it, then most certainly, keep plugging away and
yeah,
look for people's contact information, drop them a line. You just never know. And persistence does pay.
absolutely. And so you mentioned that didn't intend to be a screenwriter, which I think is super fascinating. And I kind of love that because I think you just kind of find your way. And like I said, I think you just knew you were a writer. But what are you what is the project that you've worked on that you've been most proud of? And that could be beyond screenwriting.
Oh, okay, great question. Geez. Well, I was just telling a friend the other day, the project I've spent the most time with, I started writing in 2012.
Mhm.
And I used to hate rewriting, I'll be honest. And then
I
I
know.
could, I could churn them out, and just be happy getting a draft out. But the one I'm most proud of myself personally for, I've done about 30 rewrites.
Wow. You poor thing.
I know, by choice,
Yeah.
oddly enough.
Yeah.
But I've just lived with this story so long. It's called Parsons, and it's a true story. And I've written characters in there who are not the same as my background. They're a bunch of white men in the story, so I actually paid a white man to read it, so I could get some good criticism and notes. Yeah.
First time I've
Uh,
heard that. No, I'm just kidding.
exactly. I know. It's like I can flip that,
Yeah, right.
because there are diversity consultants and people to make
No, that's
sure
wonderful.
that things are cool with all kinds of people. But me being a woman of color, I did actually pay this white guy. I want to make sure.
You want to be
And
sure.
yeah, and I paid another woman for a set of notes too, who's in an interracial couple,
Hmm.
you know. So I try to cover a lot of bases, but it is about interracial couple. Before Loving, so we know that movie about a white man and a black woman in Virginia, and they got married. This was in the 1800s, this interracial couple, and they're from the South, Waco, Texas, and they moved to Chicago. And they have very interesting backgrounds, both of them, Lucy and Albert Parsons. So I actually went to Chicago for a wedding, and while I was there, I contacted some librarians at the Chicago History Museum, and they let me go into their archives and touch documents that were handwritten by these people in this screenplay who I had been researching. So it's mind
Mind
blowing.
blowing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still to think about what they let me do to this day. It's like, wow. So I've just kept researching, going to the locations, trying to learn as much as possible. And I feel I'm most proud of it because in this year where all of our labor strikes have really
Mhm.
become more prominent, with the WGA and SAG and the Teamsters, that this is the story of the people who created the direct action tactics that we still use today for these protests. Like Lucy Parsons is called the mother of the sit down strike. And so for all the 60s lunch counter strikes, the sit ins were the sit down strikes of their day in the 1800s. So it's still, yeah, it's a very emotional story. And it really hits today because I've been to protests at Standing Rock and Occupy. So, you know, from their day and from these real people. Um, I mean, I don't want to completely spoil it, but yeah, they went to jail and they were severely punished for standing up for labor rights and human rights. And so it's kind of always to think about just kind of lays me out.
Yeah, I can
Nothing
tell
to,
it's definitely a one close to you for sure. And so this is a feature.
yes.
And is this one that you're working on getting made now? Is this one that you've also worked with the essay on, or
Yes, I'm still trying to get it made.
okay.
So I mean, I get great feedback from people who want to see it. And for a while, it was like Westerns are so popular now, and they weren't when I started writing it. Or and also historical dramas, everyone's like they're so tough to get made, and now they're getting a little more popular. Like we
Yeah,
see
for
some
sure.
cool stuff out there. Like Manhunt is coming out about when President Lincoln was assassinated, and then what happened after that, and I haven't watched any of the Taylor Sheridan stuff, but I've read how popular Yellowstone is, and all of his movies have.
You're right. He's got like a whole slew of shows. Like
Yeah,
he like
exactly.
basically runs that whole what is it, Paramount? Yeah, like or
Yeah,
yeah,
like
just
10 shows,
something
right?
like
Like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, he goes back was 1883, 1923, and so
He
Parsons
covers
used to
all of
call
them,
it.
you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm in that area. Like Parsons happens in 1886 and the whole Haymarket affair. So I'm like, you know what? If people are paying attention to that era and it connects to all the things that are happening now, because history repeats. Like all of our labor fight is still
Yeah,
right back from that original
absolutely.
story.
What may be your time, things do have a way of like, kind of trending and also just coming together. So it sounds like, hopefully this will get made soon because I want to see it.
Oh,
So
good. At least I'll have you. So
if the
that-
theater is empty, I will buy all the seats.
Oh goodness gracious! I'll buy all the popcorn. Okay,
Nice. I'll eat it
and,
all.
and the soda.
Yeah.
I'm quite fond of salt and sugar.
Oh yeah, for sure. You
Thank
might
you.
need to get a sweet in there somewhere. Do you have a favorite theater candy? Or do
Oh,
you just
that's a great question. You make me think of when I was a kid and we'd sneak in, with all the candy boxes in our
yeah,
pockets
right?
and stuff. I still like what is it? I said watermelon salted Twizzlers.
Wow, that is a
Yeah,
pull. I love it.
that's the
That's
best of a few
awesome.
worlds. Fruity,
Yeah,
salty.
it's definitely best of both worlds.
What about you? What are you chomping on when you're watching stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously like I'm pretty simple. I love popcorn, but I do love a good mix of chocolate and popcorn if
Mhm.
you know like some chocolate covered pretzels or the little
Yeah.
cookie dough bites or something. I don't know. But I also do love like a Swedish fish or a Twizzler.
Yeah. Okay. We won't get into that red vines versus Twizzlers
Yes,
situation.
we won't believe that. I already forgot about it. So earlier we were talking about
Right.
our nerdism and collecting and stuff, and I just thought it'd be
Mhm.
fun to ask you if you have a because I know you live in a very white, completely blank space. You have
Sure.
no furniture.
One wall.
Um, but do you have like a favorite item that you've collected or anything like a prized possession or something that's in that, kind of nerdy realm,
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. And well, I told you I gave up most of my VHS collection and
which
my
was probably very
VCR
hard. I'm
stuff.
so sorry for you.
Yeah, it was. It was stuff that I'm not even sure you can find anymore. But I've moved and I've moved out of state a few times in my life. So,
It gets hard
um,
when you have to pack all the VHS tapes in a bag.
exactly. But
Yeah.
I still have hidden somewhere a VHS of Howard's End. It was my first midnight movie as a teenager. I did this pre-college thing when I was young in middle high school, and they let us kind of run wild. And I grew up around farms and
Hmm.
countryside and a major highway with a bunch of 18-wheeler trucks. So I didn't have access to a lot of things a lot of teenagers might have had
Yeah.
growing up. So when I went to this college town, I was like, oh, movie theater, record shop,
Yeah.
real record shop. And so, yeah, I got to see, a movie when I could still stay awake until midnight. That has changed. And that was it. And yeah, that story hits me really hard too. It's an Ian Forster book, and I have that and a couple other VHSs. I just have to
That's a
figure out a way to watch
Yeah, right. I think I still have a VCR somewhere, but I don't think it
them.
actually hooks up to my TV anymore.
Right? That's the thing. Like,
There's always something missing, yeah. But I can't quite part with it yet
I
because I still have some VHS myself.
know.
I have the old Star Wars set and
Oh,
like
oh my
I
goodness.
yeah, so that's fun. A lot of Disney too. But
Mhm.
yeah. the original Disney with like the inappropriate artwork and stuff. If
Yeah,
anyone remembers
my
that.
mom would buy them for us, for the holidays and stuff. So we have all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned, 30 rewrites on that one. I think it was 30, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm not like
So many
loading it.
files. Oh.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's a lot. But generally I'm assuming it's not usually to that degree.
No.
Can you tell us a bit about your process, like
Mhm.
generally as a writer, any of your little maybe
Yeah,
things that you do? Yeah.
it's changed over the years. I used to pride myself in not outlining it, but because some people are so wonderful and so meticulous with the cards and the
Yep.
boards, and I used to just do a few screenplays straight. But now, at this point in my life, I was so happy that I wrote one feature really fast because I had an 18-page outline. I was like, oh my gosh, it works. It was so much
Really
easier.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been asked to do like a beat sheet before, and it was kind of like pulling teeth for me. I did it, but I didn't enjoy it. So I usually just wing it. I like most people kind of get stuck, but I have to mentally break it down. Like, 80 pages is divided by, 3, or 90 pages divided by 3, 20 some 30 pages. And that's how many conversations. And I mean,
Oh
I
wow.
can yap that much. So why can't my characters, So I have to convince myself it's not as difficult. And again, like most people, the starting is the hardest part. And now I really enjoy making decks for my projects because I taught
Decks
myself.
are fun.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll do them for more things I haven't even written yet. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
this is so
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
exactly. It helps to put images
Yep.
to mind. It's like your own vision board for your screenplay. And then like, you know what? I can see it.
Yeah,
Or I know it's gonna work when I can start watching the movie in my head.
exactly.
And one story I started hearing one of the characters. Like I started hearing the dialogue first instead of just seeing the images. And I took a page of notes and it never became anything for 3 years. So again, recently that happened to me. A character just, I just thought up some lines I really liked,
Mhm.
but I really don't know what this character wants yet. So it varies, and sometimes they talk a lot, and sometimes you
They're
just get
quiet.
little spurts. Yeah, months later. So
Yeah, do you have
it's
a lot
still
of like notebooks or documents of like starting? Because I mean,
yeah.
I think a lot of people have a lot of ideas that they write
Hmm.
down or starting of scripts.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, I'm still old school. I still order notebooks and stuff.
yeah.
I don't fully trust my computer.
I also like the physical, like I don't know, physical notepad writing. Just kind
Yeah,
of think about that. But
definitely. And it helps when I can read my own handwriting, for sure.
yes, it is
Mhm.
good. Um, I love that. So before I let you go, there's just a couple more things I'd like to ask. So first, I just wonder, is there anything that you have else that you're working on right now that you'd like to tell us about? Any projects that are, I don't know if you have anything in production or that you've done that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I wish. Thank you for asking. And right now, I think on my mind has been even with Parsons, people had said this feature could be a series. And
Hmm.
I had another project, Blood Drop Killers, which I started as a feature, and then I readapted my own feature into a pilot. So I'm starting to think like, what else can I do? Even though I'm a person who likes to be alone a lot, so the TV life isn't really conducive for me because I've been an assistant, so I've been with people and on set for 16 hours a
Yeah.
day, and it's very difficult for me. So I prefer more solitary feature writing kind of life. However, thinking about features as shows is something on my mind that I'm kind of getting.
Kind of leaning in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a benefit too, I mean,
Mhm,
sometimes some stories, especially if you do like miniseries, it's such a
mhm.
popular way to
Yeah.
deliver a narrative now because it allows you to be longer, but not, necessarily have an ongoing television show. You can like, which I think is really cool. Or, if it's a story that can continue to go on, I mean, cool,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. You can take your own IP in so many different directions, and the last several months, over a year now, I started writing essays just because they're very satisfying for me.
Yeah.
If I can't finish a whole screenplay or a whole pilot or whatever, I'm like, an essay. And so I just started doing a bunch of those because, I moved out of California, which made me really reassess what I've been doing with my life.
Mhm.
who I am because I grew up a Southerner and whatnot. So I'm thinking of all that and regionalism. I started just writing essays about various topics, and I now have 25 of them. So um, hoping to put that together as a book.
Just say,
And
is that going to be a book? Yeah, that sounds like
yeah,
it.
yeah. So I'm over 250 pages. So yeah, my sweet spot is like 10 to 20 pages an essay. And, you know, apparently people make books into movies and television
That's
shows. So,
that's very true. Actually, another screenwriter that I interviewed for this
mhm.
wrote a screenplay based on the book that she wrote because someone was like, "You should, this could be a good movie. You should write a script on your own book."
Yeah,
So
why not?
it's a very, always be thinking of all the mediums, right? You never know.
Exactly. Yeah, once you know your story inside out, it's a fun personal challenge. Like when I did, pilot to feature and
Yeah,
can see like what to include or how to make things sparser or more mysterious and how to, you know, edit the story for TV with cliffhangers and think about it differently.
yeah. So I'd love to know if you have any advice. A lot of people that are go on the ISA or join the ISA website are looking to kind of get where you are. So if you have any advice for writers, but also if you could speak to, how you feel the importance of programs like this is, because, obviously it gets you out there, but it also gets you
Yeah.
support and, a
Mhm.
variety of things.
Oh, yeah, no, it's major. It is literally a dream come true because for so many years I've been watching the top 25 or development slate and going, I wish I was there. So,
Pick me,
yeah,
pick me.
right, exactly. I've heard you have to start asking questions. What, yeah, why not me? But also, I mean, this is not just a plug at all. I mean, I've told my friends that it's the best $10 was spending a month before I got my discount for this.
Right.
Is that I would submit like there's no tomorrow, but that could fit, and so it's just the hopefulness of seeing that, or and I forgot to see what projects of mine were moving into consideration. So when I finally clicked that button to see that maybe people don't hate my work, that was so encouraging too. And so it's just nice to have that little boost to know that you sent something out there. First, you wrote it, but to have that ability to put it into the world,
Yeah.
sometimes we're not sure to who. I know they're verified, but it's a great feeling that someone will at least read the log line instead of it just sitting in a drawer or sitting on a computer.
Yeah. So your advice would be definitely to take those chances and to put
Yeah.
yourself out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Why not? As much as possible. I used to have a really hard time with it, or tough. It's been tough, like tooting my own horn. But you kind of just have to do the quote unquote YOLO thing. It's like you might as well, and yeah, to appreciate being around other like-minded people too is a huge deal because we are really all in it together, or people running lists and amplifying each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's no scarcity, right? I mean, there's tons of opportunity out there. So this is just more proof of it.
We have to boost each other up, right?
Yes, for sure. So give me a shout when you need something amplified.
I will. Well, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun to talk to you, and congratulations again. It's really exciting. And thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, you do the same. And one day we'll flip it and you'll see that there's much more than this one clean wall.
Okay, and I'll have nothing. We'll
Yeah,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll take turns. Sounds
Deal.
good.
All
Yeah,
right. I'll talk to you
thanks.
soon, Chrissy. Thank you.